CBS Sports HQ presented by Capital One. Jeremy St. Louis alongside the host of Late Kick with Josh Pate. Josh is in Fayetteville for us this weekend for Cincinnati's first ever trip to face Arkansas. Josh, give us a scene setter. How are things setting up as you sit outside the stadium there?
Jeremy, it's a lot of hype. I think nationally people are kind of aware that Arkansas fans are kind of excited, but the closer you get to game day and the closer you get to Fayetteville and just Northwest Arkansas in general, there's so much excitement about this team. I was in the facility yesterday, talked to Sam Pittman, talked to Barry Odom, talked to a number of the football operations guys, the equipment guys, turf management. Everybody is sort of singing from the same hymnal, as I like to say, but they also are aware, as is this entire fan base, got one of the toughest out-of-conference schedules in the country, and it starts today. They signed up for Cincinnati coming in here. They've got Brigham Young later in the year, so it gets started today. They're excited, a little bit under a touchdown favorite, but they're ready to go here, Jeremy.
Yeah, you see the line at 6.5. Ranked matchup too, Josh, 23 versus 19. So what are you expecting to see in this game?
I think really good line of scrimmage play, and it's interesting because Cincinnati brings a lot of guys back. There's been a little mixing and matching there, but there's a lot of experience on that unit. And I don't think anyone's paying attention to it because everyone's focused on Desmond Ridder gone at quarterback, and they got two guys they're going to choose from. They may play both of them today. They have not announced a starter yet. But, Jeremy, every year in week one, there's a game, or three, nationally, where you get an underdog that pulls an outright upset, and afterwards, guys like you and me are sitting around at midnight saying, if I knew this kid was going to play that good, I would have taken that dog outright. And just it goes to show, unlike the NFL, there are a lot of names you don't know coming into week one that are just good enough to win football games. So that's the side on Cincinnati. That's the confidence there. Over with Arkansas, they feel really good, and there is this talking point that's been disseminated throughout the land. During the preview magazine season, Traylon Burks is gone. They're not going to be as good at receiver. And I can tell you confidently, talking to them really over the past month and over the past couple of days, they feel like they're as good or better there in the aggregate. They don't have a Traylon Burks, but what they do have is a Matt Landers, and obviously they got Hazelwood, the transfer from Oklahoma. They've got Warren Thompson is a guy to watch that they feel is going to come on really strong. So you know you've got the best rushing attack coming back. They feel good about their perimeter game offensively, so it should be a really fun matchup.
6.5-point favorites. It's the first time Cincinnati, by the way, have been underdogs since October of 2020. Josh, both Luke Fickell and Sam Pittman are head coaches that have turned around their respective programs. So as we go into 2022, which team has the higher ceiling here, do you think?
I have to side with Arkansas. They won 9 games last year, if you include the bowl game. And that's overachievement. So I think a lot of people may falsely look at Arkansas and say, with the division you play in, and with what history tells us is possible at Arkansas, you've probably hit your ceiling. And I think that we're in a new era that a lot of folks really haven't come to grips with yet. We're in the transfer portal era, Jeremy, and what that means, instead of just some fancy wordage, is they have players who you will see today. Arkansas has players they've got out of the portal you'll see today that are as good or better than the names they're replacing. It used to not be that way. A program like Arkansas, historically a second or third tier program in the SEC, it used to be when they lose stud players, you just got accustomed to knowing it's going to take them 2 or 3 years to rebuild. That's not the case anymore. Now, that's not a guarantee the record improves, but I think it does serve notice that it's kind of a new era for a lot of programs. Arkansas is one of them. And I know they won 9 last year. I don't think they've hit their ceiling. They don't think they've hit their ceiling. Whereas with Cincinnati, as long as they're at the G5 level for 1 or 2 more years, I think what we saw from them last year making the playoffs is about what you should be able to expect from them at their ceiling. So I got to go with Arkansas. I still think there's a little ways to climb on that ladder.
Josh Pate, the host of Late Kick with Josh Pate, joining us here to break down Cincinnati, Arkansas, which is, of course, part of the Week 1 slate in college football. When it comes to this matchup, Josh, where do you see this game being decided on the field?
Second half, especially if Arkansas is able to grab an early lead. When you go back to Cincinnati playing Bama last year, one of the big edges that Alabama had that they exploited was line of scrimmage play and just being able to run the ball. And, Jeremy, Alabama did not have a great run game last year. It was non-existent at times. But when they got into that playoff setting, they had such a size and physicality mismatch. They had the Heisman Trophy winner at quarterback. They still ran the ball 47 times against Cincinnati. And so if Bama did it, I can assure you Arkansas plans on having a healthy dose of that today. Big offensive lineman. It's exactly what you would expect from Arkansas. Multi-headed running attack. The quarterback himself is a run threat, and that's why I mentioned that perimeter skill, because if you can sprinkle in explosive plays out wide, that's the recipe for Arkansas to get themselves a lead, get themselves in a groove, and then second half, man, they should run the ball and run the ball all afternoon. We may get out of here in like 2 hours, 45 minutes.
It's going to be a good one. He is CBS Sports host and college football analyst Josh Pate, joining us to discuss Cincinnati's first ever trip to Arkansas to face the Razorbacks, a marquee matchup for week 1 for both teams. We'll hear from Josh later in the afternoon. Thanks, buddy. Enjoy yourself out there. And for more from Josh, be sure to check out his show, Late Kick with Josh Pate, available Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Sundays on YouTube and Facebook Live. Josh will have a lot to say about this game and everything else that goes on this weekend. Late Kick with Josh Pate, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, Thursdays and Sundays.
Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.